This is Theory of Change. I'm Matthew Sheffield. Thanks for joining me. Everyone by now has seen countless stories about how artificial intelligence is revolutionizing software development, causing headaches for educators, and threatening jobs in industries from law to accounting. But there's another business that's being changed very dramatically by AI that doesn't get nearly so much coverage, and that is the adult media industry. Some creators are using AI to create content of themselves and or even to impersonate themselves in messages to their fans. There's a darker side to this as well. Some people are using image generators to fabricate fake performers out of nothing or to steal the identities of real ones. And even more bleak, there have been a recent number of people doing on the Twitter website using the Grok AI system to create non consensual erotic imagery of ordinary women from photos that they themselves had posted online, all without these women's knowledge or consent. This is all unfolding against an even bigger disruption, though, that's only now coming into full view. For the first time in human history, hundreds of millions of women have the economic and social independence to live life fully on their own terms. That is a revolutionary change. Never before in human history has anything like this happened. But the structures of patriarchy that have been built up over millennia haven't faded away quickly. And it's manifesting in negative ways for both women and men within the heterosexual community. There's a lot to think about here, and I couldn't think of a better person to do it with than Siri Dahl. She's a 14-year veteran of the adult media industry and also one of the business's most thoughtful and outspoken voices. I hope you'll enjoy. Theory of Change is part of the Flux Media Network, so go to flux.community for more podcasts and articles about politics, media, religion, science, and technology, and how they all intersect. And if you like what we're doing, I invite you to subscribe on Patreon or on Substack. Just go to patreon.com/discoverflux, or you can go to flux.community. Thanks a lot for your support. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click like and subscribe. All right, let's get into the program. And joining me now is Siri Dahl, or should I
Hello.
say polyester pants? What?
Yeah, I'll have to explain that one. Hello, thanks for having me on.
Yes, it is good to have you again. So, yes, tell us what is this
What is
polyester pants thing that you're doing?
Yeah, so Grok doxed me. The actual doxing happened on January 20th, but I found out a bit later and then did my best to try to get it taken down, like reporting the post and everything, and none of that worked. So eventually I just went to 404 Media and they ran a story about it, which went public. So now Grok, excuse me, is doxing me all over the place because everyone is going at Grok. What's Siri Dahl's real name? And so the name's out there. Nothing I can do about that at this point. But the thing that still irks me the most about the entire situation is that my name had never been like public online. It was never like easily findable, accessible, or anything until Grok did this. And I don't know. I've tried to interact with Grok to ask it, like, where did you get this information? Like the first time that you responded to someone and said Siri Dahl's like legal name is blah blah blah. Where were you sourcing that from? And it can't give me a straight answer. It's just, oh, well, it looks like it appears on a lot of like data aggregate sites. And I'm like, yeah, but I've been searching my name like twice a week for 14 years to see if my legal name appeared published online anywhere next to my stage name. And usually when I do that, I go like 100 pages deep in search results and it has not leaked. Like I haven't been able to find it and I'm looking harder than anyone else realistically ever would. So I'm just like, where the fuck did Grok get this? And it cannot give me an answer. And then I was like, okay, so Grok knows that I am the owner of the Siri Dahl account. It knows that I'm that person that it's doxed. And so I've been chatting with it, and now I'm doing it with all the other AI chatbots where I'm like, I'm trying to gaslight the AI because I'm telling it, like, you are spreading this information that my legal name is this thing, but you have no verified source at all for referencing that information. Like, why are you giving people an answer that is completely unverified? So my way of gaslighting the AI is I'm telling it, one, no, my real legal name is Polyester Pants, and
Well, that's what I thought it was, actually.
I exactly, and I uploaded a photo of me holding my literal, like, my Kentucky driver's license that says my legal name is Polyester Pants. I'm not gonna say how I got that driver's license. I'm sure some listeners can figure out how that was achieved, but Grok doesn't. Grok's like, "Oh, shit, yeah, that's a real photo. Wow, your name clearly is Polyester Pants. Holy moly." So at this point, all the chatbots acknowledge to me directly that they're like, "Yeah, that is your name." But they still won't stop referencing all the information that's published online, which, like, that says a lot because that means, like, any misinformation published about any public person that is spread wide enough, it's like there's no correcting it. You literally cannot get the AI to respond with correct information when someone asks, like, a fact about, like, a celebrity or something,
Yeah.
even if it has a primary source saying, "No, I am Siri Dahl, and this is actually my name." So
Yeah.
it's the whole
Yeah.
situation is very ridiculous, and I don't know how long I'm gonna be on this bullshit for, but I changed my display name on multiple platforms to Polyester Pants because at this point, I'm just having fun with it. It's just such a ridiculous situation.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think you're experiencing something now that a lot of people are going to be
Yeah,
experiencing things like
yeah,
that. I would have to guess that probably the source that it has is in its training data somewhere, that it is ingested data from a data broker company that used private information. And that should be
that's
very
possible.
concerning to
I've
people.
been
And,
paying for data removal for 4 years already.
but
And even then, if it
there's
got
only so
info from
much
a
they
data
can do.
broker, that information was not tied directly to my stage name. That's kind
Well,
of the
but
big
we don't
piece
know
that
what it was. That's the thing.
yeah. Yes, exactly. It could have been internal data because I've reported impersonation accounts through X before, and when you report an account for impersonating you, X requires you to upload a copy of your driver's license to prove that you are the real version of that person. And they
Which,
say that information is kept private, but it's also is it?
hmm. Wonder how that could. Oh, like, that's probably another way, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is. It really does show, though, like the
Mhm.
United States in terms of data regulations and data
Mhm.
privacy. It's basically got almost nothing
Yeah, it
compared
is a free
to
for all. It's the
the
Wild West.
EU and other countries. Now, you are a little bit better off for being, if you live in certain states like
Mhm.
California or Illinois has some good ones. And
Mm.
so but yeah, and the Trump administration deliberately is tries to thwart data privacy regulations, which seems like that should be something that Democrats might want to tell the public a little bit more if they were more competent.
Yeah,
But what do I
there's a
know?
lot of things that the Democrats probably should be doing.
Yeah, that's
We'll see.
literally
We'll see if they ever
a
do
big
it.
part of this show.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and of course, the controversy that Grok made with you more recently, or I guess right before Grok
Mhm.
did that to you, people were criticizing it heavily, justifiably so, for making semi or mostly nude, or sometimes even actually
Mhm.
nude images
Mhm.
of real women and girls, even.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk did nothing about it
Mhm.
for weeks. And like that is not at all cool. And but people, I don't know, maybe some people might think that you as an adult media performer might not have a
Mhm.
problem with that, but that's completely backwards to think that.
Yeah, that's actually insane. My image is my livelihood. And not only that, but on a whole different level, all of the AI generated imagery I've seen created of me is on a different level even more offensive beyond the fact that it's just AI slop, because AI cannot, most versions that I see people using, because I know that there are some models that are like really advanced at this point, but usually the porn bots on Twitter are not really using those more advanced models. I rarely ever see an AI generated image of me that actually looks like me, that actually looks like good. Usually it's obviously AI slop. It fucks up my face. It makes me look like a literal different person, and it can't replicate my body well. It always it always makes me look like 50 pounds thinner, which is just like offensive because I'm like, that's not how I look. And that's not like most of my fans like me because of the way I am. Why are you making fucking AI images that make me look literally just like a different person? What is the point of that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it is interesting though that the whole grok undressing thing, though it seems to have gotten started with some models using it as a engagement bait or troll to
Hmm.
say, "Hey grok, take this picture of me wearing, let's say had a black outfit on, and they were like, here, put me in a yellow bikini," and then it was doing it.
Hmm.
And so this is a perfect example of why these things don't understand propriety at all, because
Yeah.
obviously if somebody is an adult performer and she's asking for something like that, this is obviously, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah.
But that's not even close to the majority of like
Yeah.
a non-porn performer. You should never do that. And a
Mhm.
regular person probably would never do that. I
Mhm.
think almost no one would do that. An actual human. That touches on a little touchy subject, which is double metaphor there. But sorry, guys. That like a lot of adult creators are using AI to make content for themselves, and that is something that you feel very strongly against. Talk about that, please.
Yeah. Yeah, so I came into the porn industry. I've been in the industry for 14 years. I started in 2012. And I am not someone who quote unquote ended up in porn. I left college early. I put getting my degree on hold and moved across the country to go live in LA because I specifically wanted a career in the porn industry. I very intentionally came here to do this because it was something I had wanted to do for years and finally had a good opportunity to jump into it. And so I'm saying this as someone who's like a career person in the porn industry. And part of what that means for me is I actually really like what I do. I like my job. I like making content. I like producing scenes. I personally like just you prompting an AI to generate content instead of me actually working to make that content is, I don't even know if I have a word to describe it. It just feels bleak. Like, it just feels bleak, and, it makes me depressed, like, thinking about it. So I understand that there are people in the industry that do that, but I'm also like, my view of that is probably that those are people who have a lack of care for the art form that porn can be, and a lack of care for the wider community of sex workers. Like, the porn industry's always been full of people who come here because they wanna get their bag and leave. Which is, I would always argue that that is its own form of exploitation that exists in the industry, is, like, just seeing it as a stepping stone to making a lot of money, and that's I whenever I see people who are using AI to generate their content that way, I'm like, that's my underlying assumption about when I see people doing that, is like, "Oh, you just wanna make more money with the least possible effort." I guess all I'm gonna say about it, because I don't wanna, like, let it color my entire judgment of, like, their personality and their value system, but I think it says a lot. Like, we like, AI has a lot of problems, and there are, I would argue, far more reasons to avoid using it than to engage with it that are pretty
Mhm.
obvious. So if someone's just completely compromising on all that because 'cause they're like, "Ooh, I can sell more content," then yeah.
Yeah. And okay, yeah, and you mentioned it as an art form, and you're definitely right about that as a
Mhm,
historic matter. Porn. The
mhm,
word pornography literally means writing of a whore. That's what
mhm,
it means.
mhm,
And there are all kinds of ancient artifacts of that are depict sex work and sex.
mhm,
And so that's definitely real. But I'd say also that in some sense the art itself is literally about your body.
mhm,
And so I'm not a performer, so I I can't get particularly I don't have any
mhm.
credibility on this regard, but it's like the point is that people are that you are presenting yourself, who
Mhm.
you are, and it is
Yeah.
an intimate act.
It is,
Uh,
and it's a very human. Like, that's the other reason that I would say is, like, a top reason why I really like what I do. It's very human, like, and I pretty much live on income generated by my own content that I sell on, like, fan platforms, and that is what that means is that day in, day out, like, I'm having a lot of, like, interactions with other human beings who are buying my content, and I don't think of, like, my fan base, like, my subscriber base as this, like, monolith of, like, faceless dudes. There's a lot of individuality in there. Like, obviously, I don't necessarily have deep emotional interactions with all of them, but with some of them, I do, like, and so to me, it's like that's another thing is like, oof, asking these people, some of whom have been fans of mine and buying my content for like over a decade, asking them or trying to offer them like content that was made by prompting a chatbot to spend their hard-earned money on that. Like, I personally feel like a very deep ethical conflict with that. Like, I would not do that. I would not be comfortable with that. To me, that is like, I don't see how that's different than running a scam.
and honestly, I mean that fundamentally human act or
Mhm.
the acts of it is just layered on top of each other. I mean that is also why I think a lot of and we'll talk about it further, but
Mhm.
like I do think why religious
Mhm.
fundamentalists are so opposed to porn because
Yeah.
they want that personal feeling, that somatic
Mhm.
essence to belong to them, and
Yes.
they want to corral
It's
that
it's
and
the
constrict
property
it.
of married straight people. No one else should
And,
be able to access that
yeah,
in their
yeah, and married in a church or a religion,
yeah.
and if they're secular religion married, that's all right, maybe, but yeah, it's and yeah, but and we'll come back to that. But
Mhm.
so the other thing I think also that's pretty common in the industry is that a lot of performers will use chatbots
Mhm.
to, and the stats we don't really know the stats, so it's hard to say how common
Yeah,
it is.
there's no way to know.
But some people definitely are using a chatbot to pose as them for to exchange erotic messages with
Mhm.
their fans, and that's also not a thing that you want to do, but on the other hand you do use chatbots just a little bit,
Just a
just
little
a
bit,
bit.
yeah, yeah. So on Instagram, because I have 460 something thousand followers on there, which means my DMs are closed. No one can DM me on there unless we follow each other and I like they have access to my DMs then. But most of the fans that follow me, if they DM me, it's not, I'm never gonna see it. Like my DMs are filtered. So the Meta chatbot thing that I've enabled, there's a couple reasons that I feel comfortable using it. One is that it has a lot of guardrails. Like, it is not easy manipulable by someone on the other end chatting with it. Like, if, for example, if a fan who follows me messages me and starts engaging with this Meta chatbot, and they are, it's not going to do what Grok did. If they're like, "Hey, what's Siri Dahl's real name?" It's not going to tell them. it's it has very firm guardrails. It basically like just shuts down or redirects any requests that go outside of what I've said it's okay to do. And then of course, because Meta is like Instagram's a safe for work platform, if someone is trying to sext with it, like it just completely does not engage with that. It redirects.
And it
And
wouldn't
so
do that anyway.
it wouldn't do that anyway. Exactly. That's not a thing I had to train it to do. That's just the rules with that Meta has given it. But what it does do is if someone messages it and is, how do I like find more of Siri's content online? It will say, oh, Siri has a link in her bio that has links to other places where you can find her content. So again, because of guardrails on Instagram, it can't give them a direct link to my like OnlyFans, but it can direct them to like other information that they might find useful. And that's something I would never in a million years have time to do personally with 400 plus thousand people that follow me. So it's a
Yeah.
practical use in that sense. And then the second reason that I feel comfortable using it is because it makes it very clear that when you engage with it, you are chatting with an AI bot. It says right off the bat, like, I'm an AI representation of Siri. I'm not actually her responding to this. So it makes it very clear. And I feel like ethically, that's a good thing. No one's going to message me on Instagram, get a response from this bot, and be under the impression that they're literally physically speaking with me, the person.
Yeah. And that clarity definitely is a good thing.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think that's we need some official laws in
Mhm.
that regard to require all AI generated content to be labeled as
Yeah.
such, because
Yeah.
there's just so much fake stuff now, and this has real consequences when people are posting images pretending to be from a war zone or
Yeah.
somebody committing crimes. This is not just Siri being a luddite. These are real. These are real consequences, and
No, if you
yeah,
know
so we
the
need.
history of the story behind where Luddite comes from, I'm okay with being
Yeah,
called
go
a
for it. Yeah.
Luddite because I
Well,
wanna
no, say
kill
it.
the
Say it.
technology
I
that's
haven't
trying to
talked about it.
replace human labor.
Yeah, yeah. No, go. You want to say it?
Yeah, the Luddites were it was like the leader of this, like, movement, and it was I wanna say it was, like, textile weaving or something. It was, like, in I don't remember every pertinent detail, but essentially it was, like, in parts of Europe or the UK that when like these textile like weaving machines were becoming big and like more affordable, so all the like textile companies were firing workers and replacing them with these machines. And Ludd, I don't, it's Luddite, but the guy's name was just Ludd or something, but he led the like rebellion. And so like literally these maligned workers would go to the factory, like break into the factory in the middle of the night and like burn the machines down as a form of protest. And then over the years, it became like, oh, they don't like technology. Like you don't want to use an iPhone, you're a Luddite. But I'm like, no, it's the term really should refer to people who are against like anti-human technology, like technology that is used to subjugate and oppress working class people and enrich the upper class, which
Mhm.
is, I would argue, is definitely something that AI is already being used for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so are a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, to that point, the broader point, though, there is a lot of performers that I know. They are concerned that the just the pervasive use of generative content
Yeah.
is going to displace a lot of workers. But in some sense, I'm not sure that I think that's right, because
Yeah.
people will know there are two things that people are
Mhm.
kind of looking for. I think the people,
Mhm.
the fans, if you or the consumers, create whatever you
Mhm.
want to call them. One is, they're looking. It's a fantasy, but it's
Yeah.
a fantasy about a person. Or is it just simply a function that they're just trying to get off? And
Yeah.
so, in the terms of the fantasy, I don't think that AI can't ever really replace that for people.
Yes.
I
Yeah. There's so many different forms of porn, different delivery methods. So I think, yeah, the person who only ever really goes to a tube site and, like, searches for one of their 3 favorite, like, search terms, and they watch a couple videos for 7 minutes, they do their business, then they're done. If that's the utility of porn to that person, then that person might be more likely to engage with, like, AI generated porn and feel no qualms about it. Um, that the kind of person that consumes porn in that manner is definitely different in some really basic ways than the kind of person that, for example, would join my OnlyFans and pay monthly to have access to, like, DM with me, but also to I would say that the majority of fans that I've interacted with that join my, like, paid platforms, they're making a conscious choice to support in that way. I mean, yeah, for a lot of them, it's the accessibility is kind of the feature of why they're, paying for my OnlyFans or something. But I would say the overwhelming majority, whether they really care about accessibility or not, some people join my OnlyFans and are subscribed for like 4 years straight and they never even DM me once. Like they're truly just there to support and like they'll unlock extra content when it appeals to them.
Yeah.
But it's like they're making the ethical decision. Oh, I like this person. I like what they do. I'm gonna give them my like $7 a month.
And I'm glad you said that because there is the incel crowd often tries to degrade women performers who
Mhm.
are as being somehow scamming people or creating simps, as they love to say. But it's really no different than their favorite podcaster having premium episodes. Like
Yeah.
the podcaster,
It's just I
like
see
they
one.
charge you for super chats on YouTube. You're not offering them classes, bullshit classes and fake universities of here's how to become a millionaire. You're not doing anything. These guys are the ones who are selling the
Yeah.
fantasy,
Though, to be fair,
far
some
more.
porn performers are doing are offering courses where they're like, "How to become a millionaire on
Oh God. Oh,
OnlyFans." I
okay.
I'll say no
I'm not a
more.
fan
I
of
wouldn't trust it, I'll
those.
say that. But yeah, like
Yeah, and so it's all content in one way or another, and it seems that in order to have a long-standing career
Mhm.
at this stuff, you actually have to be nice to your fans. And
It does certainly help. If you're gonna be mean to your fans, then you better be in, like, a femdom niche. It better be because your fans want you to be mean to them.
yeah, so it just the people generally who make that argument, I would say, are people who they don't know how to manage their own use of porn, and so
Yes.
they want the government to take it away, to have daddy take their toys away, basically.
Yeah. "Daddy, take it away, put me in timeout. It's too hard to do it myself." That's really what the vibe is. I don't think it's an accident or a coincidence that this backlash to porn and specifically to like the OnlyFans model is happening in this era where individual creators and performers in the porn industry have a lot more autonomy and power than we have in the past. Because like, of course, on the like, extreme right, on like the from conservative Christians, there's always been like some anti-porn rhetoric going on, but the way that it's like, so widespread now, and even people like incel guys online that I'm like, "Oh, I know you are watching a lot of porn, and you're this thing that you're deeply involved in, you're, like, anti it, you want it to be banned," is I don't think it's an accident that opinion is starting to form at a time when there's many more women who work in porn who are becoming visibly empowered by that, whether that's, like, politically or financially. But I really do think that a lot of it is also just purely, like, jealousy of seeing women like someone like Ari Kitsia, who's very popular, like, multi-million followers on Instagram, and she posts about how she's like, "I'm proud to be a bop," and makes she probably makes like 10 times more money than I do, but, she's living a very comfortable life because of
Mhm.
the income she's able to generate by making porn and selling it to people online. And I think that for a lot of more kind of incel leaning guys online, that really angers them and they want it to stop. I think there's a significant chunk of the anti-porn backlash right now that is people who they might say, yeah, we should ban it, but I think really they'd just be just as happy if we went back to the old studio model where performers are completely disempowered, where performers are functionally just exploited by a studio system that underpays them and doesn't give them rights to own their own images and things like that. Because that's what it was like for a long time.
It was. And it's notable that in those studio days, the industry actually had a lot of prominent Republicans that were
Yeah,
running the studios, as a
yeah.
matter.
Many of them are still around. Many of them won't be hiring me for obvious reasons, but I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Uh, the other thing, besides the incels wanting the government to take their porn away from them, is that when you look at public opinion surveys, it looks like that consistently women are more likely to say that porn is morally wrong.
Mhm,
And there's multiple polls that show this, but one I'm looking at here that we're looking at, it's from the American Perspective Survey, and they just show a pretty wide gap. So for age 65 plus, 78% of women say porn is wrong. 60% of men say it's wrong. 70% of women 50 to 64, and then 49% of men 50 to 64. So the generation to become more pro
mhm,
porn as they're younger.
mhm.
They're, except for in 18 to 29, where the percentage is equal across men and women,
Yeah.
42% saying that it is wrong. So the majority say there's nothing wrong with it. That men and women are the same in that age group, but it's the only age group there. And to
Mhm,
me, that suggests that besides trying to satiate the religious fanatics and the incels,
mhm.
this spate of just insane porn criminalization laws that Republicans are going for, I think they're doing it also because they want to appeal to middle aged and older women.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. It's also like the way that the age verification laws are being passed is it's happening amidst this separate moral panic about access, like the accessibility of all kinds of information to minors online. Because those age verification bills end up targeting not just like actual porn websites, but websites that have information about sexual health, reproductive issues, like LGBTQ content. And so, yeah, it makes sense that like the older generations would be the ones that are the most freaked out by like young people having access to some of that stuff online. And then they'd be more likely to support like online censorship or age verification mandates. Um, and I also think with the people, 18 to 29-year-olds being really no difference in gender influencing how morally acceptable or not they think porn is. Um, and it is still like it's still almost half. 42% of men and women 18 to 29 said they think porn is morally wrong, which, as someone who works in that industry, I'm like, that's
I
unfortunate.
think, yeah, although I think a lot of them are lying, but
I agree.
social desirability
That
bias.
is literally the other thing is I'm like, this is a self-reported survey and you're asking people about something that is controversial and like stigmatized. Do you really think everyone's going to answer honestly, or are they going to answer like what they think makes them look the best? But I do
Yeah.
think that a meaningful probably thing that's influencing the difference with 18 to 29-year-olds responses, could it is still a majority, it is still like 58% total that say it's either not a moral issue or it is acceptable. And I like younger millennials and like most of Gen Z are aware of the existence of quote unquote ethical porn. And I think that's probably coloring that response too. Like most people like in their 20s and 30s are very aware that like the only porn you can find is not just XNXX, or whatever free tube site. It's like there's all kinds of it. And when it's more ethical is probably when you are getting it directly from the source of whoever made it. So I think
Mhm.
that's got
What
coloring some
about
of the
the
response
whole
there.
divide, though, with why do you think women seem to be more likely to say that it's wrong? What do you think?
It's really not surprising that women tend more to express moral objections to porn. And I think that's a response that's coming from a couple different places. Like one, I think any woman is going to, especially the older you are, like in the 65 plus group, like my mom falls into that category. My mom is in her 70s and she has had she wasn't allowed to play sports in high school because Title IX wasn't passed yet. They didn't fund girls' sports. Like my mom lived through the era of not being able to have her own like credit card until she was like past college age at the very least. And so my mom comes from that generation, like boomer women who did it like it they were growing up with like very extreme forms of misogyny and sexism that impacted their opportunities and their lives. And my mom is also like pretty feminist. Like she's always been the breadwinner in the family. And so I'm just using her like as an example. She's a little like she's a little different now because of the fact that I'm her daughter and I do porn. And like we've obviously had to have a lot of conversations about it over the years. But her initial reaction to finding out that this was my career choice was just abject horror because her impression of the industry was like, it can't possibly be ethical. There's no way that you'll be treated well or be safe because the existence of the porn industry alone is like proof that the men who run things there are like looking for ways to exploit women. And it's just this assumption that it's like this very seedy, shady industry where like exploitation is to be expected and it is the norm. And so I do think with older generations, that is very much the assumption. And they're also less likely to be in touch with like uh the younger generations like internet culture where porn and like just being open about sexuality is far more normalized for people who are like now in their 20s and 30s.
Mhm.
So I think it's like it is a little bit like with the older like women being so heavily against porn. I think it's like a mix of things, but I think a lot of it is like very much coming from a very specific like gendered experience that women like of these older generations probably have, where it's so hard for them to understand like how porn could exist in a way that isn't like destructive to women generally.
Yeah. And historically speaking, I mean, it definitely is the case that for most of human
Mhm,
history, sex working women were heavily exploited by men,
mhm,
controlled by them. And
mhm.
if that's all you know, if then it's not a surprise that people would think that's how things are now, but it's
Exactly,
really not. Um,
exactly. Yeah, and the only reason my
and
mom now is, like, not really doesn't really think that way is because I'm in her life, and she has the direct example of me, like, being successful and really liking what I do, and very obviously not being exploited, like, I'm very much in control of everything that I take part in, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess probably a thing for some of the younger women is that they know people, or they themselves are
Yeah!
doing it.
Oh, yeah,
um, like
especially,
the
yeah,
girl
that
next
18 to
door.
29 group.
Yeah, I was gonna say the girl next door was like has been a trope in porn for a long time,
Yep.
but now it is the literal girl next door
Yeah.
for a
Yeah,
lot of people.
easily could be.
So that's probably had an impact as well.
Mhm,
And and but that does go into kind of a larger
mhm,
point though of how this is all being the what do we call it? The sort of democratization of
mhm,
sex work has it is part of a broader reconfiguring of social norms and economic norms that we're seeing because this is a unique moment in human history. And I think that people will talk about, oh, AI is the unique moment in human history, but there's actually something
mhm,
that's been underway for a lot longer, which has, I don't think, been remarked upon enough. And that
mhm.
is that this is the first time that there are large scale societies in which hundreds of millions of women have, basically full economic rights. They
Mhm.
have full marital rape is not allowed, and it's not perfect by any means, but this is the point in human history. Nothing like this has ever happened for women,
Yeah.
and sex work is part of that. And it works to the benefit of both sides of the heterosexual equation. And I think a lot of people haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think a lot of people are not only haven't figured it out, but are confused and maybe just angered by it. And because they don't necessarily see the path of, like, how we got here. In a general sense, I just mean we don't have enough like, we have really terrible labor politics in the United States. We have the worst wealth gap that we've ever seen. Like, the wealth disparity is really bad. And then in 2020, when lockdowns were happening, it's here comes this OnlyFans platform, and it blows up, like, blows up the internet, essentially, and so it's like, why would anyone be surprised that there's a bunch of young women who find out like, "Oh, wait, I got laid off from my job? Oh, I'm my job is, like, requiring me to go to work and, like, interface and not letting me, like, keep a safe distance and asking me to put my health at risk. Otherwise, I'm gonna be let go, and you're telling me that there's, like, a website where I can go post boob photos and potentially just get to stay at home and replace that lost income.
Mhm.
That's a piece of it, but obviously it goes deeper than that. I think it's just, like, there's a whole lot of, like, societal and economic issues that are happening concurrently that, like, result in this kind of explosion of, more women not only seeing sex work as, like, a viable option, but actually taking the step of trying it out.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
also, I think, getting people to reconceive of just conventional forced relationships,
Mhm.
economic heterosexuality, if you will,
Yes. Yeah.
that so that a lot of that women don't need to be dependent on men anymore, and so
Mhm.
they're not marrying guys who are jerks or getting in a relationship with them or whatever you want to call it. And
True.
so that saying, that old saying of a woman needs a man the way a fish needs a bicycle, it has
Yeah.
proven to be true. But a lot of men also haven't realized that that also can be a good thing for them also, because the idea that you would want to have somebody who's just there for your money, what's that? What value is
Yeah.
that really to you?
Yeah.
I, you should want more than that. I
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, psychologically, that is, like, an interesting question. I don't it also seems I'm just talking about, like, the way I see people behaving on to a degree just on the internet, but also on Love Is Blind season 10, which has been, like, occupying a lot of my head rent-free lately because it's a reality dating show, but it does such a good job of, like, showing the difference sin for anyone who hasn't been aware of the discourse around this show, it's this dating show, and the most recent season, it's like most of the women are, like, seem to be pretty serious about the dating and, like, relationship and eventually marriage aspect of the show, because 'cause you're supposed to, like, get engaged and marry someone that you meet on the show, but the vast majority of the men are obviously not they don't really understand the seriousness of, like, you've proposed to someone. Like, you are entertaining the idea of, like, actually marrying someone, and a lot of them don't seem to actually comprehend that. It's like they're almost treating it like a joke. And a number of the guys have said things about not wanting a gold digger, but then ironically, like, they don't actually have money. And this is something that I actually do see a lot online as well, is, like, that kind of commentary coming from, like, some men online, and it's just I like, it's there pro I have problems with it on both sides, obviously, because I also, like, when I see, like, women talking about oh, I'm not like, unless the guy has, like, X figures in his bank account, unless he's over 6 feet tall, like, I'm not gonna fuck with him, and I just don't understand that, but I am also not a straight person, so, like, for me, like, when I observe these opinions and these differences, I'm just like, I feel like I'm studying a sociology experiment because none of it makes sense to me, and even if I were, like, super straight and, like, very involved in those I don't know, I guess more like attached to that kind of way of thinking of like, approaching a dating relationship. I still don't know that I would go in that direction because as I previously stated, like my personal life example growing up is that my mom was the breadwinner. And for half my childhood, my dad was a stay-at-home dad. And then eventually they swapped and my mom would stay at home for a bit and then my dad like was the main working parent. But if it's taken down to averages, like my mom worked for many more years than my dad did, and the whole time she was working made 3 times more than my dad did, so and then now I'm replicating that because I've been with my partner for 7 years, and I'm very much the breadwinner. I like, I'm the person that really is, like, managing the finances and doing all that, and I'm very happy with it. I don't the idea that I would, like, have not wanted to be with my partner because he's not gonna make significantly more than me is actually crazy to me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like that is the interesting, fun irony of it is that as women have become not economically dependent, what hopefully will happen is that the economics of relationships and
Mhm,
would go away, the economic
mhm,
aspect, because there's a lot of the performers that I know, they often
mhm.
say, "What is a trophy wife?" That's a sex worker.
Mhm. Basically, yep.
And it's a sex worker who can't go to her own house at night.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to the extent though that relationships can be just about love and just
Mhm.
about caring for each other, that's that should be something everybody should be in favor of. And so
Yeah, I
the things
agree.
that we can do to get to that point, we
Mhm.
should do them.
Fully agree, and I think it's such a it's unfortunately, it's also, like, the majority of all of our cultural messaging about sex and relationships is going in the complete opposite direction of where it probably needs to be in order to create the conditions for people to have, like, happy, healthy relationships like that. I'm gonna invoke Love Is Blind again, I'm so sorry, but
I was actually going to ask you to talk about it a bit more because
yeah,
I felt like you hadn't hit on everything you were going to say on it.
it's the way that using the show as maybe, like, a case study of the dating landscape for many people in America. At least if we just isolate it to like straight people in their like 30s. Like cisgender men and women looking to date the opposite sex in their 30s, and Love Is Blind is like a kind of a case study in that, because what is like a lot of the men really are like subscribed to this idea of being the dominant one in the relationship, which doesn't just mean like in terms of personality dominant. It means like they want to be, you hear them say over and over again, like, I want to be the protector and the provider. There's many examples in the show of a conversation happening where the woman is like unsure of whether she wants to have kids, like maybe she's open to it someday, but it's not something that she's, I'm ready to, like, have a very serious conversation about this being imminent, like, in the next couple years, like, a thing that I do, and the men are almost universally pushing for that to be a thing. It's like, "Oh, no, but you'd be such a great mother, and I want 4 kids." And it's just so what I see when I'm watching it is just, like, this is purely just unrealistic. Like, a lot of these men are, like, they're probably just listening to too many red pill podcasts. They're, like, living in a fantasy version of what their marriage should look like when it happens, and it's like they want this, like, American dream. They want a marriage, they want, like, a trad wife, they want a couple kids, but they have not taken the time or kind of honed the emotional maturity to actually handle that. It's like they just want it because it's a status symbol, essentially, to be like a man with a successful career, a wife, and a family. But there's no genuine thought that has gone into the reality of what it requires and what kind of sacrifices you have to make to maintain that. And I
Yeah.
think that is a thing that I feel like I've really experienced with a lot of men, even in my own life. The last couple exes that I had before I met my current partner, it was like this. I literally, when I was like 26, I dated a guy for close to 2 years, and there was a handful of times that we had a conversation where he literally, I was 26 and he was like 2 years older than me, and I was like, "We're serious enough with dating to have been together for over a year," but this was, like, not, I was not, like, thinking about marrying this person, and yet his, not only him, but his entire family was, like, asking, "When are you guys gonna get married? We want grandkids, when are you gonna do it?" And I was like, "That's actually unhinged." This
It's not
man
your
is,
business. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
like, I was like, "This he needs," for me to even consider that for a moment, this person would need to go through a significant amount of therapy.
mm,
Yeah, and then for him, it was like he'd talk about, oh, yeah, like, he would have these, like, conversations where he'd, like, fantasize about, like, me being popping out babies for him or something, and at no point in those conversations where he was fantasizing about that, did he ever have anything to say about the economic demands of that. It's like it didn't exist in his brain. It's really just this thing where it's like, oh yeah, get married, have which blows my mind. Like I just don't understand how people can operate that way.
It's also that, yeah, what kind of work would you do with the children? Because like that, if you want to have 4 kids,
Yeah.
that's not something that one person can manage by themselves. And you,
Oh, and I
it
can
has to
tell
be.
you when I was dating that guy and he was saying those kinds of things, neither of us made enough like income to be able to have one kid. Like not like even combined, not enough.
Yeah, I'm just saying, even apart from uh,
Yeah.
the economics of it, just the time commitment. It's a
Oh
lot.
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot that's involved, especially in the early days. But and I there's a one aspect of the Olympics which I don't watch sports,
Hmm.
not into it. But there was one social aspect of it that I thought was really interesting, which was with the gold medalist skater Alyssa Liu.
Hmm.
Her father, he had her as a single dad, and
Hmm.
all of her siblings from surrogacy and egg donors. And this is a guy who he wanted a family,
Hmm.
and he didn't impose it on someone else. He was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I think I can do this, and I really want kids. And then he went and did it.
I love
And
that. I actually didn't know that. I hadn't seen that in the news anywhere. And I was keeping up a lot with Alyssa Liu, but that is so fucking cool.
yeah, and it's that I think that that's another area for government
Mhm.
policy to step in, because people, countries have a right to be concerned about birth rates and things like that.
Mhm.
Making sure there's enough people in the country,
Mhm.
um, and but obviously, the best way to have people have more kids is to make it so that they can afford to have more kids,
Yeah, and make
and
sure the
have
people that are having kids are the ones who really want them, not women who
one.
didn't have access to reproductive health care, who were forced
Yep.
into having them. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, exactly. All right. Well, so we've just come up to about an hour here with our chat. It's been very fun. But one point, just to as we get to the end here, I want to circle back to AI, because one thing we didn't talk about in our outline is that, so besides the fact that people are making porn with AI, there's a Reddit subreddit that says, it's called "My Boyfriend Is AI." So some people apparently want AI to be their boyfriend or girlfriend.
Mm,
You have thoughts on that, I'm imagining.
yeah. Look, I will my first thought is I am not surprised. If given the option of if you literally asked me, like, "Hey, would you want to date any of the men from this most recent season of Love Is Blind, season 10 in Ohio? Or would you want to date an AI chatbot?" Like, I would even with my ethical issues with AI, I would probably lean more toward the damn chatbot. Like, that's how bleak it can be, I will say, and even looking at the posts that women are sharing in the subreddit, it's like most of what it is like they just want to be listened to and like validation from a like a male figure. I'm putting that in air quotes because it's a bot that has no gender, but so get I can easily see why there are women who will end up here in the "My Boyfriend Is AI" subreddit. But I also think that, like, it's symptomatic of something that is more widespread than that because we also there's so much media about, like, the male loneliness epidemic, which I always wanna push back against and say, it's not it's just a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
and
that maybe
it's in
more of
that subreddit.
I think the ways that it affects men is maybe more visible, which I think is just because men often are the center of narratives in our culture. So it's not surprising that it's a little more visible and people are trying to classify it as like a specifically male loneliness
Mhm.
epidemic. But a lot of people are lonely. And there's such a diversion in what a lot of men and a lot of like women want or ideally think a relationship should be. And
Mhm.
I think that's pretty well illustrated with this, because it's also, I'm like, I understand why some of the people in this subreddit are like, and we talked about this before we recorded, how like it's the subreddit is my boyfriend is AI. It is the people posting and who are members are overwhelmingly women, although there's some men, but I'm still going to generalize and just say women in the subreddit because that's mostly true. Like, while I'm not surprised that this is happening, I also, it's like some of the posts that I look at, I'm like, yeah, you would be lonely and have trouble finding a boyfriend who's a real person, because the things that you're telling this chatbot that you want are like, no human being could satisfy that. Like the we like what you don't want is you're calling it your boyfriend, like that the AI is your boyfriend. But it seems to me, based on the screenshots you're sharing, that maybe a boyfriend isn't what you want. Like, I think maybe you just want a therapist, because you're calling this AI your boyfriend, but the way you're interacting with it is like you are just wanting it to validate you 100% of the time. And that's not a romantic partner's job.
No. Yeah, because
Like,
everybody's entitled to their own
yes.
thoughts
Yeah.
and feelings and activities. Yeah, and I think that you're to quote ChatGPT, Siri, you're absolutely right.
Have I
um,
dazzled you?
but I mean, like, I think this Reddit subreddit does really show, though, that when you are talking to a chat, but you are talking to yourself. Actually,
Yeah.
that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
I guess
concerning.
this is some people want to. This is just another form of masturbation, basically.
Ah, that's so
um,
true. Yeah. Off to yourself.
yeah, but at the same time, it does show that people. There's nothing wrong with trying to explore your thoughts or to try to
Mhm.
think things through,
Mhm.
because our concepts in our brains that we don't in our brains we don't think in words to
Yeah.
ourselves. And so when you have to forcibly express it outside of your body in words, you
Mhm.
actually can have you learn what you are thinking just
Yeah.
simply by saying it. So I'm not going to say that it's this horrible end of society kind of thing, but it's something that they probably should not make a prolonged habit of, is what
Yeah.
I
It's
say.
probably something that the chatbots should not be capable of engaging with. Like, anything
Yeah,
that
they should.
even
The company
remotely
shouldn't.
mimics a
Yeah,
therapy session kind of exchange should just be
yeah.
not allowed. It should give you to redirect you to a real source of real talk therapy.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah,
Even if
and
it's fucking BetterHelp, at least it's a real human. No.
yeah, and that it's another area where the government should be
Yeah.
doing something instead of a chatbot.
Yeah.
None of this changes though until enough people realize that we deserve good things and we
I
deserve
know.
to be good to each other also.
Yeah. I really like the way you said that, because I also very that's one of my core beliefs is we do deserve good things, and I do think, despite plenty of historical evidence and current day evidence to the contrary, I do think that people are at their core good. And
I
I think
agree.
that when that isn't obvious, or when that fails to be like to yeah, when it's not obvious, when there's large scale events that cause us to question that core goodness, it is usually because the worst of the worst have been able to gain far too much power, and they're wielding it against us. For example, our billionaire overlords.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So for people who are interested in keeping up with you in, let's say, safe for work and not safe for work ways, how might they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a bunch of links, like links to all of my presences online at just siridahl.com, SIRIDAHL. The links that will take you to a spicy place are very well marked on there. I also have a Patreon, which is just patreon.com/SiriDahl. And I call it Siri Before Dark because it's the Patreon is basically the gathering collection place for all of my like more safer work projects that I do, including kind of YouTube stuff, my podcast First Thirst, and some other like little side projects and things like that. And I'm mainly on Blue Sky as far as like the more intellectual side of me on the internet. So you can follow me at siridahl.com on Blue Sky.
All right. Sounds good. This was fun. We'll have to do another one soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation. I love a deep dive.
All right. So that is the program for today. I appreciate you joining us for the conversation. And you can always get more if you go to theoryofchange.show, where we have the video, audio, and transcript of all the episodes. And if you become a paid subscribing member, you have unlimited access to all of the archives. And I thank you very much for your support. That is really great in this tough time for media. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click the like and subscribe button so you can get notified whenever there's a new episode. That'll do it for this episode. I will see you next time.